They're doing things in your name. They're healing people in your name. And we told them to stop. And Jesus said, don't tell them to stop. Those who are against us are for us. They're trying to do what we need to do. It's not just about you 12. It's about everyone that hears the good news to share it. They can't say bad things about us if they're saying things positive in our name. We need everybody to help with this. And then today, we see that passage just before us where Jesus actually gives details about what's going to happen to him. He says, we're going back into Jerusalem. It's not going to be pretty. They're going to spit on me. They're going to flog me, going to beat me, and then kill me. He says that I'll be, and then he uses that term, turned over to the Gentiles. The Gentiles, those terrible people, are going to turn me over to them. And that may just go by without noticing when you read it, but it was important in that time. The Gentiles were able to do things that the Jews couldn't because of law. Jews were following the law, and they couldn't just go kill Jesus. Even though they had evidence of hypocrisy from him, it wasn't enough that they would be able to kill him, so they had to turn him over to the Gentiles. They were the ones who were going to do the dirty work. They were the people who were going to kill him. And they tell all this as he predicts his passion to these disciples. And then, right after that, James and John come up to him and say, Jesus, come here a minute. I want to tell you, I want to ask you something. Not in front of everybody else. We want to be over here, these two brothers. Hey, we've been with you since the beginning. You know, we started. We've seen all this that we've done. We're with you. We know the plan. Now, when you get to your kingdom, put us on the right and left hand. And Jesus says, you have no idea. You have no idea. You have no idea what you are asking, James and John. This is not what you want. You say, oh yeah, we know. We got it. And Jesus says to them, well, you will. You'll get it. We know from history what did happen to them. We know that they also, John, actually lived longer, but they all suffered for following Jesus. They all had deaths that were untimely. John's lengthy, but in prison because of their willingness to follow Jesus. That was the hard part of what they were doing. They had no idea that that's what it meant, that following Jesus would eventually be their demise. That would not just be easy, but it would actually require suffering, just as Jesus was going to suffer. But Jesus agrees, and then he says, it's not mine. It is not mine to give who sits at the right hand or left hand. That is not up to me, Jesus says. He says that's up to God to decide, not for my decision. But you can follow and will, and it will be suffering and pain for you. But then other disciples hear this little conversation going on, and they get nervous because they're talking, want to know, what are we talking about? What's happening? As we all do, there's jealousy among the ranks, it seems. And Jesus handles it well. He goes right into his lecture about if you want to be great in the kingdom, here's how you do it. I've learned that, as you all know, I referee soccer, and I have learned a lesson about that. Keep people focused on what needs to happen. Don't let them get stuck here. I've told people that about operating in churches. I said if you keep people busy enough about the mission they need to be doing, they don't have time to argue and fight about things. They just keep moving forward, doing what they need to do. It works out in soccer that same way. I tell young refs all the time, if you will get the game going again after, no matter how bad the ugly event has happened, people will forget and go on, especially males. And that's what Jesus seems to be dealing with. I can take a ball after two guys are getting ready to fight. They're so mad at each other, they're chest bumping and they're talking ugly at each other. And I can say, hey guys, we're starting the game again. They will forget like that and go run and chase the ball. I may tell you something about the depths of the males you're sitting there today, but I guarantee it will happen. Change their focus, get them on what they need to be doing, and we forget those kind of things. It's what Jesus does beautifully here. He tells the disciples, don't get caught up in who's great, who's going to sit right and left. It's not mine to decide anyway. It's not what it's all about. Let's think about what matters. And he gives them the short lecture on being a servant. If you want to be a servant, it's not about power. It's about being last. And that's confusing. We like power. I was at a conference a number of years ago that Tony Campolo, great passionate Italian from Philadelphia, who is a great preacher, taught at Eastern Baptist for a long time. Tony was speaking at this place, and he tells about leaving his office in downtown Philadelphia on a Friday afternoon. And he said, I was in my big Corolla, headed out of town. So that tells you how old this was. He said he was headed out of Philadelphia on the east side. And he said, you go over a bridge there, and he said, all of the traffic in Philadelphia is on about 5 lanes, and it has to come down to 3 to go over this main bridge that heads out of town. And he said, I was going over that bridge in the middle lane when I heard my tire explode, not just break, and not just lose air, but explode. He said it was awful pop. I had trouble steering. He said, and then I went over to the side of the road, and there was already an abandoned car there, and I couldn't get off the side of the road because my car just locked up. So he said, I was literally turned sideways, blocking the first and second lane during rush hour in Philadelphia as everybody was leaving town trying to get over this bridge that only had 3 lanes. Before the time of cell phones, he said, I get out of my car and look, and that other car is empty, and I'm trying to figure out what to do. And he said, people are still coming by in that one lane, waving at me, saying nice things, telling me I'm number one, he said. He said they were talking poorly to him, words he couldn't use in church. But he said about that time he did see a police officer coming, making his way up the bridge to where he was. He said, on that bridge, though, was high enough I could look back over Philadelphia. And he said, I looked over, and he said, I had stopped traffic for as far as I could see. He said, I was powerful. He said, then the tow truck came up, and he said it had one of these loud speakers on the outside so you could hear the radio that was going back and forth. So the guy that had pulled up and was getting ready to tow my car away had the door up, I could hear the radio. And he said the first thing that came on there was somebody said, who in the world is the moron who has stopped all the traffic flow on the east side of Philadelphia? And he said, I was that moron. He said, I had power that day. He said it wasn't something I had aimed to have power over. It wasn't something I had known I would have power over, but I had power. James and John were looking for that kind of power. They had no idea what they were asking Jesus. Can we be on your right hand and your left? Jesus said, you don't want that because it's going to require suffering. Not prosperity. Not something that's going to get you ahead and make you look great in everybody else's eyes. It's going to require being servant to all. And for Jesus, it's going to require death on a cross. They had no idea what they were asking for. But to do that, too often we don't either. We think Christianity just means wonderful and blessings and continued things that are wonderful in the world, but it's not. The world is not what we're about. Our goal is to be about serving. Not so that someone might see us, but that we might follow Christ's example. This week I heard of a serving group from Orangeland, Texas, First Baptist Church down there. You may recall, we may not recall specifically Orangeland, because we didn't even know when we sent the truck out there. A couple of years ago, a hurricane hit that came into Houston, and we devastated that area. They're still recovering. There are schools that are still not rebuilt. There's still a lot going on out there. But the trucks that we sent out of things we gathered here in Madison County went out to that part of Texas, and we were one of the first in to a place that opened there at that church to help serve victims of that hurricane. Well, this week, as a matter of fact, yesterday, some of you all helped unload the truck that came from them to help people in eastern North Carolina. They sent a 53-foot truck full truck, and 4 other trucks that were 20 foot long to come to go to Eastern North Carolina that we're going to be sending down there this week to help out in there, and a large check because they felt they needed to do that. They wanted to help because we had helped. I think that's the kind of service Jesus is talking about when he's talking to his disciples. Not one that comes out of how do we boast, although they were from Texas, and I said when they brought all this, they had to be bigger than we took out there, didn't they? But it wasn't to boast. It was to share in a servant life, which is what Jesus calls us to do. I don't know if you are a fan. I read it in high school, and it was one of those books that I had just always loved, of Don Quixote. They made a play of it called The Man of La Mancha, and it's a piece taken from the characters from the book. And in the play, if you know much about Don Quixote, he is the great one that challenges windmills because he thinks they're these awful monsters that he's going to take over. And he has a partner named Sancho Panza. And Sancho is the ultimate in critical thinkers. We are going to fail, he says a lot. He is the one who keeps his head down and just knows Don Quixote is out there jousting toward his windmills, but he stays with him because he's loyal and because he knows somewhere deep in his heart he has dreamed the right dream. He sets his mind on riding Dulcinea, the beautiful princess who needs to be released, and his goal is to do that. And so in doing that, Sancho stays along. And even though eventually in the play it leads to them being put in a dungeon, a prison, and eventually going to the gallows. And as they are going to the gallows, Cervantes, Don Quixote, comes up out of the dungeon, and when he gets to the ground level, he straightens himself up, proudly walks to what will be his demise. And Sancho follows closely behind, knowing he could just sort of sneak away, always sort of walking bent over. He gets up to where he sees his leader, the one he has followed loyally all this time, the one who has dreamed the impossible dream. He looks up at him and sees what he's doing and straightens himself up too, and a smile comes on his face, at least almost, as he follows his leader to what will be both their demise. Very similar to what Jesus is telling James and John. It's not about power and prosperity. That's not what this story ends up being about. It's about who's going to be the greatest in the kingdom, the one who serves. Jesus said it this way, and whoever wishes to be first among you must be slave of all. For the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve, and to give his life a ransom for many. Let us pray. Oh God, so often we get confused. We think that this life you've called us to is just about glory and success, but we really know you, we know better. We know you call us to a different life. Not one that is judged as the world judges by how well we do, how popular we are, how much money we make, but by how much we offer to help those that are in the most need. As your followers of God, help us to be offering that good news of hope that comes only from you. That good news that offers your mercy and love to a world that so desperately needs to know it. That good news that offers comfort to those that are struggling. Help us as your people, as your disciples, to truly understand what it means to be a servant to all, just as you were. For it's in your name we pray. Amen. In just a moment, we're going to stand and sing our hymn of response. It's in your insert, in your order of worship, the servant song. Maybe there's a decision you need to make this day. Maybe you've never put Christ first in your life, and we'd love to talk about that, and I'd love to talk to you about that here at the front. Or maybe to make this church a place where you'd like to serve with us as we serve God together. Or maybe a calling God's laid on your life to go serve somewhere else, and we'd love to hear about that here at the front. Or just as we stand to sing, possibly God has laid that on your heart that you truly need to take seriously what it means to be God's servant in all the places you go each day. As we stand to sing a hymn together. As you go from this place, go with the hope of the Holy Spirit, from which there are no boundaries. As you go from this place, go with the peace of Christ, which begins in your life, spreads out to this community and into the world. As you go from this place, go in the love of God, which swells up in your heart, spills over the places where you live, work, go to school, and play each day. As you go from this place, go in the hope of the Holy Spirit, the peace of Christ, and the love of God to serve the Lord together. Amen.